Hello, everybody. My name's Milan Starsik. Welcome to Freedom Rising, a podcast dedicated to empowering individuals on the journey to personal growth, lasting serenity, and freedom from addiction. Tune in and join the movement. Your journey to freedom starts here. We neither represent, promote, or demote any 12-step program or organization. We are merely souls on the path of recovery with the desire to expand our lives and experiences and share them with you. Hello, everybody.
What's up, guys?
Welcome to the 112th Recovery Freedom Rising podcast. I'm Milan Starsik with co-hosts Andrew Norman, Brandy S., and Annette F. Today's topic is sponsorship. Can you share what this means to you, Andrew, and why you're happy to discuss this topic here today?
I would love to. Good to see you again, Brandy and Miss Annette. Good to see you again. Love you, missed you. Sponsorship, man. I was thinking about this the other day. Milan, I was listening to one of the podcasts, and I was like, "What? They haven't done one on sponsorship. Like, I don't even remember one at all." And it's so funny because it was on the schedule today. So, sponsorship, guys, is a big deal here. It's what we call in our fellowship the bloodline of the fellowship. You know, the newcomers are the heartbeat, and we're the bloodline. You know, the sponsorship piece is the bloodline, and it's really some people can get a real running partner in this thing. What it's defined as is just another addict working the steps and has a working knowledge of the steps and or hopefully the traditions. You know, there's 12 steps and 12 traditions. You know, I have a sponsor that walks me through both of them, and he's very, very in depth. And you know, you can get a lot more than that, though. You know, the way I look at it is like, you know, it doesn't matter who gets out of the burning building as long as we all get out of that burning building, right? You know, if we're all in that burning building, as long as we all get out, it really doesn't matter who gets out first. And then the next layer of that is once you get out of that burning building, we have people in this fellowship who volunteer to suit back up, train back up, and go back in that burning building and pull people out. Mm-hmm. And that's what sponsors are. You know, it takes a different type of person to suit back up and go back in that burning building that you almost died in and pull people out. It's a really special thing to not only be able to have one that you love and respect, but to be able to be one is a whole nother layer into this thing. Milan and I were talking about it the other day. We touched on it briefly, but for both him and I, we didn't really understand the full spectrum of what a sponsorship relationship was until we got one or two of our own. And then it really kind of opens up to what this thing can do for you, because it's a two-way street. You know, at the beginning, they're there for us, but once we start getting cleaned out and we realize that our sponsors are not dumpsters, and we need to call and check up on our sponsors every once in a while, that's when this thing really can kick into high gear. You know, when sponsorship is active in a group, you see it in the atmosphere, right? There's something about that accountability with that person. You know, there's more unity. You know, when you have sponsorship in a meeting, you know, you have somebody who's being sponsored. It just brings a cohesiveness to the whole thing. And it becomes more than just a place to sit. It becomes a place to change. Are you with me? Like, it really does reinforce and starting a new lifestyle. But you got, you know, when you're in here, I'm sure we'll get into a lot of questions and how you get one and what you look for and stuff like that. But that kind of opens it up. I'll drop it down to you, Brandy, and then we'll make it around that way. Love you guys.
Love you more. Love you the most.
I love this topic. Anytime I get to talk about sponsorship makes me really happy because it's so important. You know, it's so important. I did for many years, tried to be clean on my own. Of course, wasn't working a program. And I just, you know, looking at the differences of then and now, I mean, there's so much. And, you know, it's comes down to like, you can't, as a sponsor and as a sponsee, like I can only suggest and I can take suggestions. You know, I can't tell people what to do and you know, but that's not what this is about. It's about our experience and being able to share it with someone else and, you know, keep giving it. That's how we keep what we have. And it's such an important, special relationship. And maybe they're not all like that. Maybe I just am extremely lucky, but it is in a relationship that you know, that you're able to go down these roads with, you know, your victories, your downfalls, you know, the being able to find ways of doing things differently and being able to help someone else. There's so much to sponsorship that I mean, it's a given in this program, of course, but could you just imagine if it wasn't a thing at all? And I think everybody should be a sponsor at one point, you know. Some people do at different times. Like, you know, they've, you know, been clean for 2 years, haven't sponsored anybody. And that is, I don't think that really matters. I think that, you know, once you've worked the steps and you feel like you're in a good spot, but I had to be pushed by my sponsor because I have that imposter syndrome. Like, I didn't think I was good enough to sponsor anybody at all. And she's like, I think it's time. And it's been a blessing and a headache at the same time. But a blessing to be able to help somebody else and give somebody else the guidance that you were given, you know? So it's an important topic to talk about because there's so much to it. It's not just like, you want to be my sponsor? Yes, no, okay, let's do step one together. There's so much around that. And you know, I think sponsors, there's hard to you know, draw lines and have boundaries. And so to have conversations like this and dissect the subject a little more, I think is great because you know, your sponsor's not your best friend, but you're going to call your sponsor probably as much as you do your best friend. So I'll leave it at that.
I love that. Annette, welcome back. And would you like to share on what sponsorship means to you and why you were happy to come and
Yeah,
discuss this here today?
yeah. I thanks for inviting me back. I was so excited. I had such a good time the last meeting or the last podcast. And yeah, um, when I first came into the program, I first started going to meetings. People were asking me if you know, oh, can I be your sponsor? And I was so uncomfortable because I was just so awkward and like, I don't have my I don't have my drug of choice. Like I didn't know these people, you know. So I thought about this woman who I knew, who I'd seen around, and she didn't drink. So I'm like, I'm going to call her because I know her and see if she'll be my sponsor. And she was like, yeah, I'd love to sponsor you. But she didn't work a program the way that I now work a program. She was like the California sober, Oregon sober, smoking pot, and occasionally taking pills. So I was like, oh, okay, this is great. You can do those things. That's way easier than I thought. And we just chatted. We didn't go through the book or the steps or anything like that. And of course I relapsed a couple of times. Not of course, some people get sober in different ways. I relapsed a couple of times. And then I ran into a girl who invited me to a meeting, and she's like, asked if I had a sponsor. I told her, and then that I did. And she was like, the only thing a sponsor is supposed to do is take you through the steps. I mean, that's really what they're supposed to do. That's it. So I went to a meeting and I grabbed the first person who raised her hand. So we'll talk probably a little bit more about that, like how do you select someone? But God provided me an amazing sponsor. But I did a lot of things wrong before I had a sponsor. I tried to like make my amends to people without doing any of the steps, and I made a big mess of it because, you know, I was like, well, I was drunk and I'm so sorry, but you know, it was really like I wasn't in my right mind, and you know, just making excuses. I didn't know how to do this program, and a sponsor with her patients was able to guide me through, and also to help me understand the humanity of the program. Like, she's not perfect, you know, she was able to share with me all the shit that she did. And so I didn't feel so alone, because I don't know if you're like me, but when I first walked into the program, I felt lower than low. And so
Yep.
to just, yeah. And so to bring humanity to the program, to guide me through and ultimately show you how you can sponsor someone else, I was nowhere without an actual sponsor who works the program. I'm so grateful.
Love that. You know, I was quite excited to come here today because, well, first of all, because I love all you guys and love spending some time together. But, you know, right in the AA Big Book, you know, it says nothing offers greater immunity than to be of service to another alcoholic. You know, and whether you want to throw addict into alcoholic there's really nothing that helps you more. And my sponsor now, you know, he was his share of messed up when he entered the program, was really worried about relapsing. And he had had his spiritual awakening, or the first one really, early in his recovery with his, you know, his hard work and his perseverance. And he started sponsoring people at 2.5 months into the program. And when he told me that, like, I was like told in the treatment center, you don't sponsor anyone for a year, blah, blah, blah. And then I started reading through the book, and I'm like, there's no year rule here in that part of the literature. And then, you know, shortly after, I began as well. And I'm really glad that he gave me the confidence for it. But one of the first things I realized was that this program would die without sponsorship. There would be a bunch of dysfunctional addicts and alcoholics, I don't care what 12-step program you're on, self-interpreting the steps from their selfish point of view, the way that they're reading, and flailing like fish on the deck of a hot boat. You know,
True.
flap, 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 flap.
Yes.
Like, honestly, if I think of my first interpretations of the steps before I actually had someone guide me, you know, like, my gosh, how little of it and the depth of it that I didn't interpret. Like sitting down with a sponsor who, you know, has been at least through the steps and can explain to you the levels that they've learned about it, to me is where I've had my biggest growth. You know, for sure, it's in conversations with a more experienced person with the steps. And, you know, like I consider, you know, my two sponsors, my main sponsors, but man, I consider so many friends. I consider you guys my sponsors in a way. Like, how much have I learned from sentences that we've shared, you know? And really, what are we doing? We're here together trying to show people our love for this program and how we stay straight, you know, and it's really, to me, there's such a wide variety of different avenues that we can talk about on sponsorship. I'm just going to pass it up to Andrew to ask Brandy. Want to take it
That's
away, Hot
beautiful.
Dog?
That's beautiful. I want to just make mention of what you said. One thing, it brought up a great point. I had somebody that actually don't agree with a lot of what this person in the room says. All of y'all know, or you know, at least two in NA, I've been during the meetings, but regardless, they taught me one thing, that when we are talking to each other through our problems, we are sponsoring each other, man. That is a very, very important thing to understand, that when we're in here doing this, this is a form of sponsorship. When we're here doing this, helping each other out, especially if like one of us or whoever in that conversation does not have a sponsor, you know, it's up to us to really be that person. You know, we don't have to, but if we're in a position to be that, that's what this program does for us. And it also says if you don't have a sponsor, the group can sponsor you, right? Like, let the group be that higher power and be that thing that sponsors you collectively until you find one. So that's a great point. I wanted to bring that up. All right, Brandy.
I love that.
What did I fear? What did you fear most about getting a sponsor, and how did you overcome it?
Oh, you know, well, when I first heard that I had to get a sponsor, I was in treatment and I was like, I mean, do I really need one? I just did 28 days. Like, I should be fine. And, you know, the extensity of my
Healed.
disease. I was
You're
like,
fixed.
yeah.
Healed.
Yeah, I was like, man, do I really need to? So I was hesitant about it for sure. But when it came down to it, it was, you know, I knew that it was a suggestion that I needed to take, and I learned that I need to be a little uncomfortable with stuff. But I wasn't, I was afraid that I was going to lie to this person, or I was just going to, because I still didn't know, you know, 28 days in of a 30-year lie, really. You know, like I didn't want to disappoint. I didn't want to do what my sponsor suggested. I didn't think I was capable of a sponsor, to be a sponsee, you know, to be accountable to anybody else. I was not really sure if I was accountable to myself at that point, you know. I had a real big thing about you know, you know, before I understood the importance of surrender in this program, I was really good at taking whatever back. And I just felt like I had a big fear that I was going to be like that with my sponsor. You know, like I was really good at, I mean, I guess not good, but really good at lying and convincing myself and others. And I was afraid that that's how my sponsorship relationship was going to go. I really was, before I even knew what I was looking for in a sponsor. And it was really the complete opposite for me. It really was. It was, it's a huge part of my recovery, and it showed me so many different things I could do differently. And the stuff that I was afraid of, I don't really have to be afraid of. And if I am, it's okay. You know, as long as I'm just honest. So it's kind of a short answer, but I think that's a great question though, because there can be a lot of fears when it comes to stuff like that. And mine was like, I didn't think I was going to change.
Love that.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. All right, Miss Annette, you ready? So
Yeah.
what did you fear most about getting a sponsor, and how did you overcome it at first?
I mean, I was so, I still kind of am so like socially anxious, you know, and just to the idea of sharing like my deepest, darkest secrets, you know, because mine are so much different than everybody else's, so much bigger, and you know,
No one's as bad as me. Right?
yeah, and like Brandy said, like the fear of lying. I was really like, I can't tell this person the truth, and if I'm like trying to work this program for real, I have to, I lie to myself all the time because I can always justify a reason why I'm doing a particular thing. So, you know, and I kind of felt, I looked at it like going to the doctor. Well, if I have this person who's going to be a sponsor, why would I lie to this person? Because I'm trying to get better, but how can I possibly tell this person the truth? And then being a people pleaser, like many of us addicts, alcoholics are, I was very afraid of being a disappointment to this person. And I was willing to surrender just about everything except for this codependent relationship that I was in with another addict that couldn't get clean. And I didn't want to tell her about that. I didn't want to tell her about like the ways that I had accommodated this situation. And yeah, so the way that I overcame that fear was desperation, just desperation to get better. And she helped me overcome. I mean, she brought me up to overcome this, because when we sat down at the New Seasons coffee shop, she told me her story, and she'd been through it, you know, she'd been through it, and she made me feel so comfortable that I could overcome my own fears. And she really just made me feel like I was part of this, that I deserved to be here, that I certainly earned my seat here, and that there was a way that I could get better. And it was that simple, just nurturing me. So that helped me get over my own, helped me break through my own wall that I had built. That's it, I think.
Beautiful.
I love
That's
that.
beautiful. I love that. I love that.
Una otra vez, mi amigo.
Yes. See. What did you, Mr. Milan, fear most about getting a sponsor at first, and how did you overcome it?
Well, there was a couple things, but the very first thing was like, I was going to ask a guy to the prom, and I really didn't want him to say no. Like, you know, like I remember I went to like one meeting. There he was. He was standing over there. He's talking to them. Man, I can't go up now. I'm like, it's gonna be in front of those people. Hey, how you doing, man? Can I be a sponsee?
Hi.
But and then, you know, I was worried, is this going to be the right fit? Nobody told me when I was in treatment and that we had to get sponsors, that you could get another sponsor if it didn't work out. Like, I think that for anybody out there who's new, super important. You're not signing a marriage license. There's
Signed
no
in blood.
alimony. Like, there's no alimony. If it's not working out for either of you, it's a no hard feeling. Let's just have this over with. You know, like I am still friends with my first sponsor. I just saw him at a roundup. We had a great conversation. You know, like I learned a lot from him. it just wasn't right for it to continue. It was me, it wasn't him. But you know, essentially, I think that I was worried about that. And when I asked my second sponsor to sponsor me, he said, okay, well, you know, I'd like for us to meet for an hour first and see if we're compatible. He said, you know, I made the mistake of jumping in with people before without knowing if we could spend a lot of time together. And he's like, in this relationship, I will have to spend a lot of time with you. And it's gone tragically poor for me before. So, you know, and so I respected him for that interview process because I had never thought of that. I just,
Yeah.
you know, and when I went out, it also helped me feel like, hey, this was the right thing. You know, like he got to lay out, you know, first of all, he got to see if I was just like, you know, a heavy drinker or user and not an addict. You know, like he really got to the root of my own addiction. And, you know, because for him, it's really important that he is helping somebody who is a true alcoholic or addict, you know, and then also just our general compatibility, and then what he's willing to offer and what he would like in return, you know, and I think that that's an essential thing. Like you could say yes to anybody, and if they're like 1 week, a month, and not showing up for the other three and wasting your time, it's just like it isn't good for anybody. You know, like having a
Yeah.
set expectations and having that kind of that conversation just to find that out. You know, that taught me something right there about, you know, when I talk to somebody now, I'm like, oh, okay, well, you know, let's have a conversation first about this. And I just got a new sponsee last week, and that was the first thing. He came over and we talked about it, and and we'll see where that's gonna go now when you know, the rubber hits the road coming this Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. All right. So what did I fear most about getting a sponsor person? How did I overcome that? Well, I didn't even know what sponsorship was at first. I thought it when I heard the word sponsorship, as I've come out of normal life and I hear that word sponsorship, there's money involved. You know, I used to work for a group of radio stations, and we would do sponsorship things where like people would pay us to sponsor certain shows and things like that, right? And so when I came in here, I'm like, I want to be a sponsorship. Like I want to be wherever the money's at. Like it was
Yeah.
very strange when I came in here. I thought they were going to pay my way through recovery or something. You know, I seriously thought that there was some kind of money situation lane in this thing, right? And so I'm like, put me in that lane. And when I realized what it was, I backed out quick. I'm like, I don't want no parts of this sponsorship that doesn't have anything to do with money. I can't make any money doing this. And it really is when you come in here, y'all, like we laugh, we giggle now, but like when you come in here, you don't know these things. You hear these sponsorship, my sponsor did, and you hear all these things, and you don't really know. It's just another way for us to complicate our way out before we identify our way in. You know, it's just one of those things that sponsorship. When I realized what it was, I realized how vulnerable I was going to have to be with that person. I didn't want to do it. You hit on it, Miss Annette. The vulnerability factor of that, going in and telling this person, the stranger, I've never met this person. And a lot of times through Zoom, we meet them online. We might not ever meet this person. I'm supposed to tell you everything that I've done in my life, like all the grimy ass shit I've done in my life. I'm supposed to really lay this out for this person who has maybe been to jail before, and you know, whatever, they might have some clean time, but how can I trust this person, right? And the more you go to meetings, the more you hear about what this thing is. And the turning point was when I realized that I couldn't do this thing by myself. You know, I had this fellowship, I have all, you know, I have a little bit of clean time or whatever, you know, a month or two, but I couldn't do it by myself. When I found myself reaching for the phone, there wasn't that one person I could count on to call. And when we're new, guys, you need that. You gotta have that. You know, so, you know, we have all these WhatsApp chats and all that other stuff. That's all supplemental stuff. But a sponsor is not, like you talk about suggestions in this room. That's not a suggestion. You need to get a sponsor.
Yeah.
Because if you don't
Yeah.
have a sponsor, you're not going to work the 12 steps of the fellowship properly, because you can't do it by yourself, guys. This is not
No
a
way.
there's
I
only
like that you
one.
said that. It's not a suggestion. That's a
It's not a
really,
suggestion.
yeah. I like that you said that.
It is I mean, you want to call it a subtle command. If you want to work, if you want to stay in this thing and do this thing that we're talking about, all these things, and get all these spiritual principles, work the steps to get the spiritual principles. There's only one wrong way to work the steps.
Alone.
By yourself, exactly. Yeah. So you need to have a sponsor. It is vital that if you want to stay clean long term, then you need a sponsor. So what got me over that hump was reading the literature about reading literature, and then specifically the sponsorship IP. When I came in here, someone suggested that I read that. And when I go to get a sponsor, I should sit down with that person, read the sponsorship IP, which it essentially lays out what to expect as a sponsor, what to expect as a sponsee, and then you can work through your questions. And so if you don't know what that is, I mean, we have websites, nameetingmakers.com. Go to our literature page. You can pull up the sponsorship IP on a whim whenever you need.
Yeah.
So it was very, very important to me to have some kind of I had some kind of weight going into the situation. You know, I have this sponsorship IP that I'm coming to the table asking somebody else to be a sponsor of mine, and I'm not coming like this beat up pup, right? I'm not like this little 2-year-old that doesn't know what sponsorship is, but I'm going to ask this all high and mighty sponsor to be my sponsor, right? It was like, hey, let's sit down and you know, I've been listening to you. You know, if you hear somebody talking the way you like to talk and acting the way you like to act, and it's got some clean time under their belt, then maybe talk to them a little bit more about it. Because when you become a sponsor, that shit keeps us alive, man. Our sponsees keep us alive when they call us, man. I can't even explain it to you, but any way they call us, it gets us out of our own head. And so, this is not a suggestion. I'm gonna just say that it's not a suggestion. You need a sponsor in this program, any program that you're in, any 12-step fellowship that you're in. Get that sponsor, because it'll change your life. It'll change your life. A lot of people get a running partner. You know, a running partner, not just this person that you can just maybe lean on from time to time. A lot of people get so much more than just that other addict working the 12 steps, man. I mean, I'm so close with my sponsor, dude. I would do anything for that man. I mean, anything for that man. Sponsor. And he would do anything for me. He's changed my life. He's changed the way I talk to myself, to other people. I mean, he showed me a way to be around in these rooms and how to conduct myself, man, and how to show up consistent, you know. And he's taught me humility. He gave me all the humility I need, man. So it's humility in action. Sponsorship is humility in action. It'll teach you some. So yeah, awesome. I'll take that down to you to ask questions now, Miss Brandy.
All right. I got quite a few here, so I'm picking one. Okay, what do you or what
you're asking Annette? Just Annette.
Okay, sorry, Annette's for you. What does "you can carry the message but not the addict" mean?
Oh, that's so good. That it means to me that that if I'm sponsoring someone, I cannot keep them sober. I can't I'm not responsible for their choices and their sobriety. I can only share what my experience, strength, and hope is. And I can guide them through the steps the way that my sponsor guided me through the steps. It might not be the same for everybody else, but that's how I've come to understand it. And that came from me, my first couple of experiences in sponsorship, just wanting to say the right thing, you know, like, what can I say that will make this person stay sober? How can I say this in a way that will like change this person's life and make them understand that they have to stop relapsing? What can I do? You know, and I had to understand through the help of my sponsor that no, I can't do that. I can't do it for them. I can't make them want this program. I wanted it when I came in. And so my sponsor didn't have like the magic potion that made me stay sober. I was desperate for it. And I was willing. And so that and she shared her experience through recovery. I mean, she had like 9 years of it. And so that, you know, not that time necessarily means anything, because someone with 1 year might be an amazing sponsor, but she knew, and she laid it out for me too. Like, I'm going to put into this what you put into this. So And then I think that there are also boundaries that probably, and I have a question about that for later, that a sponsor probably needs to put some boundaries into place. Like, you probably can't have the person come and live in your house. You can't be their be all end all, their provider of everything. Let me help you. If you lost your job, come live with me. I'll make
Higher
you
power.
Yeah, you can't be their higher power. I don't think I have too much more to say on that one. Thanks for the question.
That was
Brent.
good, man.
Thanks,
That's
Annette.
good answers. I could relate to a lot of it. Okay, am I asking
Me, me,
Andrew?
me, me,
Okay, that's what I
me,
thought.
me,
Okay.
Milan.
Okay, Milan. What does carry the message and not the addict mean to you?
Okay,
should I say?
well, I mean, essentially, we can't give someone else recovery. We can share, and impart and lead by example. Like it's kind of like one thing, we've talked about before on this one, especially when you were here, Brandy, is, we can't tell our kids what to do, right? And not saying that our sponsees are our kids, but we can't tell anybody what to do. And the only way that we could truly lead in this life is by example. When they say like attraction, not promotion, it's like we can make sobriety look really freaking good for somebody who's suffering a lot. Like I sure love a lot of people and I would love for them to have this miracle. But the only way that I can share this miracle is by shining with it, and to like for me, one of the things that I like to do with my sponsees is when I have these different epiphanies, I'll give them a call and be like, hey, like this is something I just figured out. You might want to save yourself 20 months and think about this week, and they like it, they're like, oh, and then they'll come back to me a week later and be like, well, I was talking to my wife and we kind of started to talk like this, and it was, like, but it's important to share, but we can't do someone else's steps for them. We can't do their work for them. We can't, we like, we can't provide their willingness. All we can
Yeah.
do, all we can do is feed the fuel of their willingness if it's there, and I would, just even from an experience I had today, it was, what I saw was that we could show love. We can show love and we can offer whatever kind of assistance it is that, that person can need, but we can't provide willingness that isn't there. And I think part of that saying is also a little bit of self-protection for our hearts.
Yeah.
Like it's not our fault if somebody goes out, if we, put our trust in God's will and try our hardest with them. Like it's just not our fault. And it's hard not to feel that the first second that
Yeah.
somebody relapses, who you're trying to help. And so, I think part of that saying is something to relieve us from the feeling of guilt.
Mm,
Yeah, it's beautiful, man.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that.
that is. I
I'll
felt that
take
one.
that question, Brandy.
All right. What does you can carry the message and not the addict mean to you?
That's a really, really good question. It reminds me of the saying, like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink it. But then I tack on to the end of that, like you can make them real thirsty too. You can make them real
Yeah, I like
thirsty.
that. I like that.
And it's about living this program and living this life and being who you are and dealing with your imperfections is how you can inspire other people to do the same.
Mm,
It's not about it's not about being perfect, right? It's about living our lives not people pleasing, doing what we do and then having people that will come up to us, ask us, and then from there we hold those people accountable to their program. We give them suggestions. We try to show them the way, if you will, right? Yes, on the baseline of this thing, it's just helping them through the steps. So essentially, we're pointing them to a God of their own understanding through the steps. because a lot of times we come in here and we are our own gods, right? And we don't really understand what, there's no connection there because we've been using for so long. If you read into this literature, it tells you that once you start using, you're not connected. So all that connection you felt coming in here was not really what you think it was. And if you and even on top of that, let's say it was, there's a whole nother level to this thing. Once you get clean, you really tap in. And so that's what we're here for. We're here to point them to meetings. We're here to point them to fellowship. We're here to point them to connection and community, and to keep that long term. Without sponsorship, the step work is just words on a page. It doesn't have any meaning behind it. It's just like Milan said earlier, it's us just sitting in a room trying to hold each other accountable where we're at. Like, it doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. It might work for a couple people, but long term, over the long haul, and all the numbers of people that have gotten clean this way, this is the way to do it. This is the way you got to do it. And I know people that have more than one sponsor. It's a little strange to me, but hey. And look, I know there's other fellowships that offer like service sponsors, other things like that. And I know, and that is what it is. If that's in your fellowship, do it. Do whatever the steps in the fellowship, suggests. Because we're not suggesting this thing. There's no suggestion that's going to point you in the wrong direction if you're working it the right way. These things are only to help you out. They're only to help you out. Like, you can read into them whatever way you want to, but they're only to help you out. And so a sponsor can help you with the wording of a lot of this shit too. My sponsor is man, I'm a literature guy. My sponsor is like, doesn't even have to go reference the book. Like, it's already there. He knows what page it is and he just throws it out. Like, he's a beast. He's a freaking beast.
He is.
And so I've
learned a lot from him.
Oh, he's amazing. Talk about a man that can come on and cry and be in his own, like there's so many women in my life that have said that your sponsor has taught me so much about how to be, how a real man is supposed to be. Because a lot of women will come into this room only knowing one kind of man, right? And I'll just keep it at that, right? Like they don't know that being emotional and being tapped into our feelings is a sign of strength. A lot of young boys are raised not to like tap into that part of your life. Be tough. Don't say sorry. Don't ask for directions. All this shit. Well, there's a new
crying. I'll give you something to cry about.
I'll give you something to cry about, boy. Right? Like, so there's this new wave of men coming into this life that look, we're not, and there's nothing feminine about it. Right? It's talking about just being able to be tapped into our feelings. And look, if you can cry during the day, if you can laugh, cry, and smile, like have all these emotions throughout the day, that's a full day. That's a beautiful day. Being able to cry, have those emotions move to tears, and then come around and then start laughing, or be like laughing, move to tears, back to like that. To do that in a day is a beautiful day, man. Like, I used to cry because I was just miserable in active addiction. To cry in a good way, because you hear somebody's story that was yours, right? Like, you come into a room and you've been struggling and you hear your story in a different way from another person that you really, really respect, and they're crying and they're grateful to be there. It changes your day. It changes everything. It changes everything. And so that's why they say, honest sharing is the antidote to our disease thinking. We come in here and we talk about what we have going on, and maybe 3 or 4 people in the room absolutely needed to hear that at that point. And it's just a beautiful thing, man. It's a beautiful thing that my sponsors taught me how to tap into that, man. And so he's also taught me to, when I go to a new meeting, if I don't enjoy the atmosphere, I don't like what's going on there, don't leave and go talk shit about that meeting. Stay at that meeting and put your influence in it. Put your experience in that meeting. Make that meeting what you want it to be. Why are you going to leave and go talk shit about that meeting? Just make that put your influence in that meeting and try to make it better as per what you think it should be. Don't leave and let that meeting sit and rot. Little things like that if you don't get a sponsor or somebody that's been doing this for a while and been through the trials and tribulations, then you're not going to know this kind of stuff. And Annette, you hit, to close, I'll close out on this. You hit on it earlier, like at first, there might be some things that you don't like about that sponsor, but that's going to teach you how to be a better sponsor once you become a sponsor, or to get that sponsor that you really, really want. You need to go through those. Like, don't try to pick that perfect one. Just get your ass a sponsor. you know, that's you think they're not going to hurt you, right? Like get one that you've seen and kind of, you know, just get one to secure one. And then you can really learn, hey, I really don't like how this person does this thing. And then you can pivot, still having a sponsor, get a new one and understand that whole process. So it'll be easier to do it next time if that comes up. So, all right, that's me.
I love it. I love it. I love
You answer your own question. Yeah, I love it.
I'm going to. And I'm going to say real quick, kind of what you said, and then I'll answer my question. That, you know, this is like, obviously we have got to do this together, got to have a sponsor. It's a we thing. You know, the first 11 steps start with we. Doesn't say you or I, it says we. And that's a big part of it. So I just found that out like a year ago. I mean, I've read those things so many times, but I never put that together. So it just hits my heart every time I think about it. Okay. Carrying the message and not the addict. So I am a people pleaser. I mean, I don't deal with it so much anymore, but you know, there's different areas in my life that come up that I still find I have to remember that I'm not a people pleaser anymore, and I have to work on things, and it's uncomfortable sometimes. And you know, I've had I don't even know how many sponsees I've had really, and I'm a big heart person, so when they don't make it or they don't do, like, I get sad and I get offended by the work I've put in and then the lack of work, and then okay, for what? So I have to, you know, realize that it's not my job to make sure they don't go use. I can just give them the tools that they can use in order to not. And it's not like I get a bad mark on myself or anything like that. Like that's been a big struggle for me. And then, you know, I had a sponsee just recently that I sponsored for almost 2 years, and we became very close. And I carried her the whole way. I mean, she really did make a big difference. She did change a lot. But, you know, that's why I feel like even though we all do our recovery differently, I get that, but it just wasn't anything that, you know, you got to take suggestions. If you can't take the suggestions, if you can't, you know, try to do what your sponsor is suggesting or do what they're doing, or, you know, go forward in that area, what are you doing? You know, like, we're not therapists. I've learned we're not therapists. That's for sure. We're not even really supposed to be friends, but there's that element there where you are. But I have learned through that, I've learned a lot through that one experience alone, that all I can do is be here for you and tell you what I did, what works for me. Maybe we can throw back some ideas, but I can't carry anybody, you know, and I match energy, which can throw people off. And I think that a lot of that is from failed sponsorship relationships. Like, my sponsor met with me every Friday for the first 2 years, and like very devoted. And so like I go into my sponsorship to sponsor somebody the same way. And not everybody wants it like that. They don't want, you know, they just want to be able to say they have a sponsor. And so it's hard because I want to be able to, you know, be there for somebody. But I know today I can't carry you. I can carry the message. I don't even think holding your hand is great. You know, like I'm very, what is it? What am I trying to say? I'm very nurturing, but I'm also very like, well, if you're not going to do it, then I don't know what to tell you, you know, I can cut off just as fast. And when you see it like that, and then you realize that this whole time you've been kind of carrying the person, you know, it felt crappy at first for me, but really I just feel for them. I feel for the other person, because you can't carry somebody else through their own recovery without pulling yourself down at the same time, you know. And I think that's a big one to watch for, because you know, for me, I personally, is probably why I picked this question, because I got a lot to say about it. You know, there's a point where it just doesn't it's not good for the sponsor or the sponsee. And you can't just say you have a sponsor and not work it. You can't just you know, like there's no recovery there, and it needs to be recovery based. If there's other things that go on, conversation about your day or whatever else, that's great. But if you're not talking recovery, you know, there's nothing there. And I had to say, which was uncomfortable, because again, I don't like to make people feel bad. You're not doing nothing for my recovery, and I'm not doing anything for your recovery. And I'm not doing you good by still being your sponsor.
Clean time does
and
not
that's
equal
hard.
recovery, right? Clean time does not equal
Yeah,
recovery.
it doesn't. Yeah. And I had to, make that decision, and it hurts feelings. I get that. But and I called other sponsors, female sponsors, and was like, what should I do?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't just like go off emotion, do it. Like, I got other people's opinion on it. And because there's some like mental health factor in it and stuff like that. And bottom line comes down to, I can only carry the message. And
That beat you up. That beat you up to make that decision too, Miss Brandy. And look, you got to pick that
Big
pen up.
time.
You got to pick that pen up. I know, just gotta
Yeah.
pick the pen up, man.
Yeah, exactly. And it was really, really, really hard. And it still is a little bit, because, you try to still be friends with somebody, and it's, it can be whatever. But I know in the end, I made the right decision because I wasn't helping her.
Yeah.
I wasn't helping her at all. And she was bringing me down. And I don't want to feel that way about sponsoring somebody. Like, it's not going to be perfect and all happy all the time. I understand that. But it shouldn't feel like that. You should feel like you're doing something for somebody. So I always say to somebody, like, she wasn't working NA, she was working BS, which is my initials, because she was working me. She was working me. So,
okay.
and I see that now. I see that now that she doesn't have a sponsor, and I pray for her. I do. But, the 25% that she put in is down to maybe 10. And so I made the right decision for myself. I know that. But, we can trying to carry an addict, you're only hurting yourself. And
It'll break your back. Break your back.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because I know I personally have put a lot of work into my recovery with my sponsor's help and her suggestion and guidance. But I have pages of stuff I've written, because she suggested, you should probably write that down. And so, we can very easily go through something and look back and realize, oh, I think I've been carrying this person a little too much.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's something to look out for in the beginning, because it's hard to catch later. And then it can be uncomfortable. But we got to do things that are uncomfortable today.
Great point.
Yeah. That was my rant.
Okay, Miss Annette, do you have a question for me?
I do. I need to pull my questions out from under my cat.
Hi, cat. Hey, kitty.
Catty.
Uh-huh. Let's see. Okay. How does a person find, okay, who am I asking first?
Me.
Okay, Milan. How does a person find the right sponsor? How did you find the right sponsor? Is there something you looked for? How did that happen?
Well, I'm told to go to meetings, and so we were taken to meetings from my treatment center. And, I was listening for somebody whose message, was, for me, was interesting and had a lot of recovery in it. I wanted, I wanted a mentor, essentially, and I wanted somebody that I felt like I could learn from, and that was saying something that, was also, like, I don't think you're supposed to date a person who's just like you. Somebody who's different will be like your complementary force, and I think that sponsorship is similar to that. You don't want to be the identical thing, and then both of you have the same weaknesses and can't see the same things, and so there, for me, the first time, there was somebody that I heard at the meetings, and he gave a share, and I was like, that share is taught me something that, like, nobody else has shown me that angle on something. And then my second sponsor, it was actually right in the same period. I was in treatment, and just kind of a modest guy sitting on the side, and then boom, they asked him to share, and I was just like, it was like a little tornado of recovery and intelligence blew through the room, and I was like, whoa. I'm like, oh yeah, I want some of that. I want some of that. And for him, when I wanted to change sponsors, it took me over 2 months to find that guy again. And so, if you see somebody who you think you want to be your sponsor, find out their number because he might be just visiting from a different meeting and you might have the hardest time tracking him down. Like you might think his name is Glenn, but then his name is actually Ben. And then so you're asking everybody for Glenn's phone number. And then it's like, oh no, his name's Ben. But, it's weird and it can be synchronistic when you meet them. But man, trying to track them down sometimes, it's like you got to earn your spot as the sponsee by hunting them down, manhunt style. But yeah, so for me, it really was about being at a meeting. Like I'm not going to meet my sponsor in Walmart. Okay, how do I even start sifting through who's in a program or who's not? And yeah, at a meeting and really, getting something that resonates with what I want to learn, where I want to go, but also that surprised me with their version of something that I thought I knew. Like I do believe, when people ask me, oh, what kind of music you like? I'm like, I like an interesting song, a good song that surprises me. And I think I want that in my sponsor too, is that I want somebody who's going to just kind of blow the way I think the universe apart into shrapnel because the way that I thought the universe was supposed to be was crashing my life to death. I'm going to leave that there and say, I love you, grateful you're back, and grateful you two are up there. Love you guys.
Love y'all. I'll
Thank
take that
you.
question, Miss Annette.
All right. So how did you find the right sponsor? What did you look for?
It's a beautiful question. There's so many answers that could come to this thing, but when I just kind of break it down in my head, when I finally found the right one, and this is my advice or my suggestions to somebody looking for one. When I used to be in a meeting and I would hear somebody say something and my ears would perk up, right? Like you would hear them say something, you would see them acting in a way that maybe was attractive to you and maybe you wanted in your life. And then obviously the next level to this is, maybe pick somebody that has the same kind of things in their life. If they have children, if they don't have kids, don't pick a woman if you're a man, don't pick a man if you're a woman. And I'm not saying that doesn't work. I know people where that kind of relationship does work. I know women that have a lot of clean time and they're very, very strong in this program. You know them too, Miss Brandy, that there's just men that sponsor them and it works really, really well. I've seen that more as you get a little farther along into this process because it really isn't about the sex at that point. It's about, it's about who they are, that other person is. So if you're a strong person working in recovery, it's a little bit more, okay to do when you've got a little clean time under your belt. You know what you're doing around here, right? And I'll just tell you this: I used to have a woman sponsee. You know her, Brandy.
Yeah. Sorry,
she was pregnant.
Sorry.
She was pregnant woman. I can't get pregnant. I don't have her body parts. It didn't work out well, guys.
I think I sponsored her right after you.
No, I did. It was like, and look, that person, I'm just going to say, is still having a problem finding sponsorship, right? So there's some people that just don't put themselves in a very good position to get that, whether they're not available at the right times or I couldn't get it. I mean, this lady, we could not get on the right times to even have a conversation in person. I think you had that same problem with her.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't even know. That was a little bit of a tangent. But yeah, if you're a dude, don't get a woman that's pregnant as your sponsee.
I think you should have tried pregnancy. You would look pretty good pregnant. You'd be glowing.
Look, I don't even have any kids, bro. I don't even have one child. Okay.
Yeah.
So I've got my dog, I'm just a different lifestyle than her. Let's leave it at that, So so every time, the man that I have now, I love that man, dude. Sean is the best. He's the best. I remember being in a meeting and hearing him talk for the first time. And I was in tears. My whole body was taken over by how he shared just the power that he had in his message. And so that was something that I wanted. I wanted to have that person in my life. And not at first. I just, when I first heard him speak, I was like, okay, that's someone I need to tap into. So I got his number and I tapped into him. Then I would hear him speak and I would see him in meetings. I saw how he conducted himself.
Yeah.
And then I was bold enough to ask him, and he had one question for me. He said, Andrew, are you willing to do anything, absolutely anything, to stay clean the rest of your life? And I said, yeah. And from there on, man, it's been a beautiful, it has catapulted my recovery, man. It changed everything in my recovery when I finally got that sponsor that I could really link up with and really respect as a human being, and all their decisions that they're making. Miss Annette, you talked about that first sponsor you had where she was living the California sober, the Oregon sober, doing pills and doing a little bit of smoke, and that didn't work for you, but you learned something from that. And Milan, I think your first sponsor was the Mr. Hey, you got a fifth step, we're gonna have to pay a priest, go to a priestly and get that done.
Yeah.
I wasn't going 90210. I wasn't Jason Priest in it.
Look, this is my highly regarded suggestion here. If you have a sponsor that works a thorough 4-step with you and you go to work that 5th step and he's like, bro, we got to pay this priest down the street to go do it, you need to run. You need to run, man. You need to run, man, because that's crazy. But all things we need to hear. These are all things that happen, bro. Like, if it happens, something wild like that happens to you with your first sponsor, it happens to all of us. Like, it's okay. You're not like sponsor list listness. Like, you can't be. You're not sponsorable. Unsponsorable. There we go. Double negative hyperbole or something. So yeah. It's you'll learn something. Get that sponsor. If you start feeling bad, like Milan said, you're not signed in for life. We're not doing this thing. It's not like a marriage. You can break up with that sponsor. They might not be so happy about it, but like it's a conversation we have to have. We'll learn, we grow through it, man. And at that point, you probably have another sponsor kind of in line at that point. So they'll help you through that process. If you have another sponsor you're looking at before you get rid of that one sponsor, that new sponsor will help you through that process. So, all right, that was my answer. Great question, Miss Annette. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Andrew. Okay, Brandy, how do you find a sponsor? How did you find your sponsor, and what do you think is important to look for you?
So with me, I remember like when I was treatment days, my counselor told me, like, when you find your sponsor, you'll know. And so when I got home and I went straight to meetings, I was sponsor shopping is what I was doing. I was listening to everybody, and I was like trying to, because I wanted to find somebody that they had what I wanted. I know some people will be like, will you be my sponsor? And I'm like, you don't know anything about me. And that can work for people. But I think that can, I don't know. I mean, for me, I couldn't do it like that. And I don't sponsor anybody that just asks me to sponsor them by just suggestion, or I think there should be some more to that, just for if it's long term at least. But so I went to a bunch of meetings, and I couldn't. I'm like, I just can't. I'm just going to keep going until I find one. And then I went to one that's closer to my house, and it's, I don't know if you guys ever heard of it. It's called Celebrate Recovery. It's like it's all recovery. So I used to go to a meeting that had anywhere from a sex addict to a food addict to a drug addict to an alcoholic, all in the same. It was amazing foundation for me. But I found my sponsor there, who obviously is, we used to know the same people way back in the day. And I heard her talk and share as her kid ran around. And I was like, this is it. I think I want her to be my sponsor, I'm like saying to myself. And so, but I didn't act on it right away because I didn't want to feel creepy, I guess. I don't know. So I waited like a week, and I went to more meetings, and I was just like, I just can't. I feel like she should be my sponsor. And so I messaged her, and it was just like, I feel like I was asking her on a date. Like, oh my God, what if she says no?
Well, you know all my secrets, please. We know all my secrets.
Yeah,
Please.
right.
That's
Yeah,
allowed,
please. We
man.
know all my will you please carry my baggage for me? Well, not for
It's
me, but-
crazy. It's crazy. Think about it.
So she did the same. She's like, well, let's meet at the local hall, and we'll talk. And I remember being there, and I was so nervous, and I didn't really know how to talk about myself then. I didn't know how to delegate my words, and it was like I just word vomited on her is what I did, and just told her like I was all over the place, and so will you be my sponsor? And then she told me about herself, and it was like, God brought me her, 100% brought me her, because, we do have a lot in common, but we are very different in a lot of ways. Like I struggle with resentment. She struggles with anger, but we both love rocks and the river and music and stuff, like, so we have a lot of similarities personalized wise, but and she without a doubt has what I want. I think she just celebrated just celebrated 13 years.
Love her, man. We love her, man.
I love her. Yeah. Yeah. And but I truly believe, like, I knew, when I met her that I wanted her to be my sponsor. And like a few months ago or like 6 months ago, she started school and she tried to break up with me. She told one sponsee that she can't, sponsor her anymore. And she said to me, and I was like, I just don't know if I can take that. Like, I don't know if I can accept your answer. And so I
talked
told
about
her,
it on
I
the
was like,
podcast. You talked about it on the podcast.
yeah. And so I just like, I'm good if like, and but because of what she has taught me, I was like, it was in my head, like, you know what, if I got to find a sponsor, I know I can do this. Like, I know this isn't like the end of the world. And, but she agreed to just like take a break. She was there for me, but I was so busy with sponsees as it was. And so now we're back at the game. We meet every other week again.
Yes.
And, and my fourth step, when I did my fifth step with her, it was 100 pages and I spoke for 4 hours and I said things I didn't think I would ever tell anybody. And she gave me that space to be comfortable and vulnerable. And I forever be grateful to her for that. And, I knew then, I was pretty far into my recovery by then, like about a year or not a year. I don't know how long it was, but like I knew, but that right there, I knew I could just be as vulnerable as Brandy can be with her. And so, I think it's important to, like if you got to get a sponsor right then and there, find somebody. Yeah. But temporary sponsors are okay too. But for me, a long-term one, I needed that person that I could have a shitty day with or call when all the good things happen too. And I definitely found it with her. And so I think it's okay to sponsor shop. Just get one. And so
Awesome.
that's my answer. I love my sponsors.
Beautiful answer.
Okay, Miss Annette, can you answer your own question?
Yes, I can answer my own question. Yeah, so my first sponsor situation wasn't the ideal sponsor situation for me. I didn't know what it was. And I had the same situation where that Brandy talked about, where a lot of people were asking me if we're like, oh, I would like to sponsor you. And I just didn't know what it meant. I had no idea I just looked up meetings and I tried to go to a meeting and I finally walked into one after I would drive and look in and then drive away. And, and one person said like, oh, I've only been sober for like a month, but I'd really like to sponsor you. And I was just like, so I found this girl and woman who I'm still really good friends with. But it didn't keep me sober, and I don't think she's really sober, so didn't really do much for her. But when I went to my first meeting where I was willing to do anything, and this woman was sitting right across from me, and it was a speaker meeting and her sponsor was speaking. And so she was the first person to open up and share after that and talked about what this person has meant in her life, her sponsor. And I think what first impressed me was that she was so organized in her thoughts, and she could like speak in a linear way about what she appreciated about this person, about what this person did for her in her life. And so what she was describing was what I wanted. She was describing how her sponsor raised her and helped her and create, showed her the way. And that's what I was missing. So I was just confused because they said, please at the end of the meeting, please raise your hand if you're willing to become a temporary sponsor. And that's just the wording they used for their meeting. And so she raised her hand, and it was like it was a potluck afterwards that they had after speaker meetings. And I wanted to ask her, and I accidentally bumped into her and I had cake. And then I was like, will you be my sponsor?
I just blurted at you.
You don't have to answer right now. You don't have to answer right now. Will you be my sponsor?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, yes. And she said, yeah, I raised my hand, of course.
Crazy.
And
that's awesome.
So, yeah. And so I didn't know, like, are you a temporary sponsor? Are you my sponsor? And we met, and she had a different addiction path than I did. Like she had, her addictions were, we had alcoholism to, you know, in common, but she also had some other addictions that I didn't have. And we had enough differences. She's very, very by the book, very structured. I'm very like, yeah, this is great. This is great. And I just, it was a good fit. We were enough different that it was a good fit, but we had also very similar interests, like Brandy was talking about. And it was really clear that she was my sponsor. You know, I mean, we went through the book, we read together, we did all the things a sponsor is supposed to do. We went through the steps, and she prepared me to be a sponsor, even though I was scared to death to do it.
Yeah.
And then things progressed. She was my sponsor for 6 years. And we just got into this real comfortable place where she was in nursing school. I was doing whatever I was doing. And we just gave each other way too much freedom, you know, like, oh, we couldn't meet this week, we'll meet next week. And it ended up being like sometimes a month before we would talk to each other. It just became really casual. And we both kind of came to the table and said, oh, I think I need to find somebody, a new sponsor. I was in Mexico, she was in Oregon, which is fine, but I need to find someone local. And so at that point, then I was looking for something a little bit different. And the person who I chose and asked to be my sponsor. So like Andrew said, like we had a plan. She's like, you find who you want to be your sponsor, ask that person first, and then we'll part ways. So,
Beautiful.
Yeah, she really helped me through it. And then the person I chose was someone who really trusted her higher power. Like she did not stress about things. She knew her higher power was going to bring her through whatever was going on, that whatever was going on in her life that was troubling or, you know, could have caused anxiety was happening for some kind of a reason. And that there was something else that was, you know, transitioning in her life and her higher power had her. And I didn't know how to think that way when I first got my first sponsor, but that's what I wanted at that time. Like, wow, I want to trust, I want to really trust this program, my higher power, whatever. And so, and she's been my sponsor for like a year now, and it's been amazing. I think most importantly, I knew that I needed someone that wasn't going to co-sign my bullshit. And, which is what the very first person in my life was. Like, yeah, we're all human. We can smoke pot. Like, that's okay. So that's the answer to my own questions.
That's awesome. Okay, Mr. Andrew,
Yes.
how has the guidance of a sponsor helped you walk through fears you couldn't face on your own?
Wow. It's a loaded question. You know, obviously it's, for me, it's how my sponsor conducts himself in the meetings and how he conducts himself outside of the meetings too, man. Really, I just watch how he lives, and I'm able to almost not act as him, but really adapt the principles that I'm learning as I'm working the steps with him into my life, man, as he has, right? It gives me a blueprint of how I need to do things. And it makes me more confident in my decisions. You know, it makes me more confident in my program. You know, he has leveled up my program. You know, when I finally was able to get him as my sponsor, like I was walking around different, you know, because I'm really tapped into this program. And having him was like getting Superman on my team. Right? It's like if you have a 5-on-5 basketball team, you got Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, you got Michael Jordan. I got Michael Jordan on my team now. You know, mixed with all my support network that I surround myself with, you all three included in that. Like I have Michael Jordan now as my like coach. You know, he's like Mike Tyson's coach. Can't knock out Mike Tyson, but he can see things that I can't see from an outside perspective because he's so tapped into me, right? Like he knows if I'm in a meeting and I'm being a little silent, he asks me what's going on because he's like, you know, he's either sleeping or something's wrong with him. You know, something's up because I'm vocal. You know, I'm spreading love in my meetings, and so it's just a God, it's like a safety net, man. It's like the best safety net I could ever have in my life, man. The best safety net ever, right? Like I can go through these things that I'm going through in recovery clean, not canceling my emotions with drugs anymore. And I can be confident that like if I make mistakes, I'm still doing the right thing and I'm just trying a new way to live, right? Right. Like it shows I'm trying. I'm not gonna beat myself up about it because I'm having guidance and I'm being shown that like I'm doing the right things and I'm staying honest. Gotta always be honest, man. The honesty piece wraps in everything, right? Gotta be honest with what you're doing here.
Yeah.
Well, we're not going to get better. You're going to be getting the wrong person clean if you're not honest here. Does that make sense? You're getting the wrong person clean. You're not getting you clean. And so a sponsor, my sponsor, man, like he's so tapped in. You talked about having that spiritual sponsor, Annette. My sponsor is so spiritually tapped in to the God of his understanding. And he has taught me to pray. Bro, he almost, when I call him, he hits me in a way, and it's not like he's yelling at me, but it's almost like he, in a roundabout way, asked me if I've already prayed about it. And if I haven't, it almost makes me want to hang up the phone. Like, he's like, bro, have you not, you didn't pray before you called? Did you? Hold on a second. Are you telling me you didn't pray before you called? Like, how free do you want to be, Andrew? And he hits me with that, and I just go,
Right.
Response, man, my bad. I'm sorry. And so then what he'll do is he'll pray with me right there, and he's like, bro, you should have done this before you called me, but in a beautiful way, in such a beautiful way. Now there are some things that prayer doesn't help. It helps everything. More prayer, more peace. More prayer, more humility. Less prayer, less peace. Less prayer, everything, right? And that's what he's taught me. And so he's taught me that I can really restart my day at any point during the day, man. I can hit that serenity prayer and I can completely refresh my day if I'm feeling off. He has given me so many buffer zones before I even need to call him. It's so beautiful, man. It's so beautiful. Like I have like these 5 layers before I even get to him now. It's made me a stronger person. It's made me a better sponsor. It's shown me how to do with my sponsees. And it's a beautiful thing, man. It's a beautiful like I scratch your back, you scratch mine. Let's all be better. Upward trajectory. Like there's nothing bad about it. So I just follow his lead. It has shown me that when I make mistakes, it's not because I'm a bad person. It's because I'm just trying something new. Which, as a recovering addict, we're trying to do everything new here.
Yeah.
So if I'm trying a bunch of new stuff, I'm going to make mistakes. And it's through those mistakes that I learn how to do it the right way. And I also know that when I make a mistake, that like God doesn't have it in store for me to get through that thing, or, whatever I made a mistake on, there's something right on the other side of that he had in store for me. So I'm not going to beat myself up about it and allow my past mistakes to imprison me anymore. My past is my teacher now. It's not, I don't let it put me behind bars now. I allow it to teach me. Our past will hold us behind bars a lot as an addict. I'll keep it on me. And so as I've learned that time is the only currency we spend without knowing the ending balance, missing that. We just throw that time currency out there. We don't know when this thing's not going to be around. We don't know when we're not going to be here anymore. And so we got to be really, really mindful going forward, because we've been playing Russian roulette with our lives. A lot of us have, leading up until now, with drinking and drugging and doing the wrong shit, driving cars, driving the biggest bullet you can drive drunk. Like, come on, man. A car is the biggest bullet in the world, right? Like we drove in a bullet, drinking, driving, drugging, like we. So we're lucky we didn't A, kill anybody, B, kill ourselves. Now let's take time as precious as it is, and apply like life things to it, man. Healthy things, spiritual principles, being the right person, trying to make up for all that shit we're doing. It's not we have to make up for it, but it's how we live going forward that really makes up for all that stuff. Because we can't come to the table with something to offer. We are magical motherfuckers, Brandy. Don't let nobody tell you you're not.
That's right.
Love you guys, man. I'm done.
Love you.
Okay, Brandy, how has the guidance of a sponsor helped you walk through fears you couldn't face on your own?
That's a great one. Well, honesty is a huge one, because like I'd said in the past, like, I wasn't honest. I only really knew how to lie about my addiction. I didn't know how to tell the truth or to ask for help. People would be like, why didn't you call me? It's like, I just didn't know I didn't know how to do that. Like when my mind was made up, it was done. Why would I call you so you could tell me not, suggest me not to do it? But my sponsors, she's given me a space where I can be honest and I can be wrong. And I can also, I can also be proud of myself. Because I went many years not being proud of anything or admitting that or I wouldn't try anything. So it's like I would admit I was wrong. I just held myself back so much. But I feel like she's shown me a different part of myself that's helped me grow into, who I am and who I'm gonna be. I mean, I don't think it stops here. And give me that space. Like I said with the fourth step, being able to share with her all the stuff I didn't think I would ever share. And with her, she's been there when through all my, my kids' hard stuff and the good stuff. To kind of go off it for a second, like my daughter is I don't know the exact date. I'm bad, but she just recently celebrated 3 years of no self-harm. Well, my sponsor helped walk me through that with her and the steps. Like I worked the steps with my daughter, not like, here's step one, but all the tools that I learned from my sponsor and from the program, I was able to turn around and help my daughter. And so when I talked to my sponsor today about my kids, like she weeps like I weep, and so much love and excitement. And being able to know that my sponsor isn't a superhero. Like there's times she's called me, she's like, X, Y, and Z is not going good right now. I really don't think I have anything to give you today. Can we reschedule? And that right there, like I just gained that much more respect for her, and I never put her on her pedestal, but times like that reminded me that like, she's human. It's going to happen. It's okay. But she's been able to just, help me work through, like, I didn't think people pleasing was a character defect. I didn't think so. Like, how could people pleasing be a character defect? Well, it is when you really break it down, because I would say yes to people and then go home and be miserable and not make, not do the plans. I mean, it was, I
Lying to
only
yourself.
cared lying to myself completely, being able to work through that kind of stuff and acknowledge that kind of stuff. And I came in here a sugarcoat a hot mess, and I like to surface. And she's been able to like help me, maybe give me the space. I don't know what it is to be able to go deeper, like go
On that
layers deeper.
fluorescent pink cloud in Brandyland.
That's right. That's right. Yeah,
Love it.
that's right. Exactly. You get off the fluorescent pink cloud because I mean, I live on a pink cloud. It's just it's what recovery's done to me. But yeah, like I all this different stuff. Like right now, we've done the steps a couple times. And let me sit right here. Right now, we're doing something different because like recovery is huge, but why not go deeper, right? So I don't know if you guys see it, this book, emotionally spiritual or healthy spirituality.
Nice.
It's
Yeah.
deep shit. So we're doing this
Some
right now.
deep shit.
It really
I
is.
see lots of
I
tabs
really
in that
is.
book.
Look at all these
Lots of
tabs.
tabs in that book. I see
Yeah.
tab on tab on tab.
There's
The-
lots of color in here too. So being able to like, she's helped me like want to go deeper into things, and like, I'm grateful to be clean. Like I know how to make amends. I do a 10 step, but why not just go like a little deeper spirituality wise into who Brandy is, and I guess to go off this also goes back to like, where where'd my character defects come from, like family history and stuff like that. And yeah, so it's open like this whole other world that I didn't know I wanted to exist in me. And I'd have been happy just not using drugs, really. And who knew that I was gonna get this other part to me. And with that, she's helped me, have that confidence to help somebody else too. And she always says, you help me more than you know. And I didn't get that till I became a sponsor. And I tell her, I'm like, that's why you make the big bucks. She's like, you don't pay me. And I'm like, I know, but
Emotional
that's why you
bucks.
get paid the big bucks.
Spiritual
Big bucks.
bucks.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's, it's all in all, she's given me the space to be able to verbally process, to maybe think of something one way, but look at it a different angle and see it differently. And so with that, she's like, I've gone, if you'd have asked me, well, like 3 years and 10 months and a couple of days ago, that I would feel the way I do about my recovery going forward, the spiritual part to it and the principles, I would have been like, no, I just really want to not use drugs. I want to maybe just not lie sometimes. But today
Sometimes.
yeah, sometimes, because I didn't know that that wasn't going to go away when the drugs went away. But, and you know, I'm accountable to her. And so that's a big thing. She's just given me so much space where I can grow. And so, yeah, I love this topic. I love the
Accountability is the
sponsor.
foundation of change, Brandy.
And
Yes, yes.
Annette, how has the guidance of a sponsor helped you walk through fears you couldn't face on your own?
Oh boy. I mean, so in so many ways, like in the very beginning of my sobriety, like I had mentioned before, I was in this really codependent relationship with a person who couldn't be clean. And I knew that, and I had relapsed a couple of times because I'm so codependent, such a people pleaser. Like, I just want to be on the same level, you know? And so like, I'm just going to have some wine, whatever, like I can't, you know, and so I wanted out of the relationship. I wanted out, but I was also so afraid because I'm helping this person to try to be sober, you know,
Yeah.
which I wasn't. I mean, it wasn't working. Me taking someone else's inventory and shaming them into staying strong and not drinking was not like an effective way to to manipulate sobriety. But she helped me. Like she literally gave me a script, you know, and it wasn't as difficult as it of course it's difficult relationships, but it wasn't that difficult. It was easy as saying I'm trying to save my own life here and I'm too fresh at this. I can't do this and live with you at the same time. And I have to choose my own recovery. And you know, it was hard. It was difficult, but she was like, call me right after you do it. And the person, he understood. He got it. I mean, it was miserable, you know, it was a miserable situation for both of us. And he left and we're kind of still friends. I mean, he still to this day can't stay sober. But we talk every once in a while, but everything was done with love and not with like, you know, I was making, somebody mentioned did someone mention making things harder than they needed to be? I was like, I love you so much, but as you know, la, 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 like, you know, and broke it down and it was simple. And I guess that she helped me understand, like, this person has their own higher power also. Their higher power can help them with whatever they need to go through, but you need to rely on your higher power. Your higher power is clearly telling you that you need to be single and be able to work on your recovery. And it was so freeing. And so, and then she helped me through all the emotions of breaking up, because not only did I break up with this person, I broke up with alcohol. And that was my relationship. And it was really difficult to be like, I can't just go home and drink now. I have to figure this out. She showed me the importance of going to meetings, and she probably carried me a tiny bit during that time, because she'd be like, okay, listen, there's a meeting here. I'll meet you here. And she met me at more meetings than she needed to at the very beginning. So that guided me through my fears. But now that I'm so mature in my recovery, 9 years into it, my sponsor now is more, she's more like Andrew said, like, okay, if I call her and I'm like, I'm really upset about this, my boss is like expecting too much of me, she doesn't really care about my personal time, but I'm supposed to care about hers, all, and la la la. And she's, you know, she asks me, like, have you prayed about it? Did you meditate? Did you know, all the things that I need to do first. And then she has taught me how to have boundaries. And again, the easiest conversation in the world, just tell your boss that you had these things set up before she asked you to do that, and that you'll get done whatever you need to get done after that. Or this person has children, so she doesn't start giving me things to do until they go to bed at night. Well, I've already worked a whole day, you know? and to just lay down like, okay, these are the hours that I'm available to do this. And it's all very simple. I internalize things because of my people pleasing nature. I internalize them to be these really big boulders. And she just shows me how to just kind of move it aside and go on. And I think the biggest thing for me is that everybody has their own higher power. I don't have to worry about how this person responds as long as I'm doing things in a loving way, as long as I'm doing my best, as long as I'm being like the 4 agreements, impeccable with my words. If I'm doing my part and I'm keeping my side of the road clean, I can be honest, and they can handle things the way that they handle, the way that their higher power has them handle things. Learning how to trust, really trust my higher power has been everything. And that did not come to me naturally. It came through my sponsor.
Love that.
It's beautiful.
How has the guidance of a sponsor helped me walk through fears I couldn't face on my own? You know, I would start out by saying that just how they helped me learn about the steps. You know, like I didn't even know a lot of my defects and resentments were fears. So it helped me identify them from the very start. Like, and you know, awareness is my path to recovery. You know, like if I can't identify something, I'm going to try adjusting something else the whole time. And then, you know, one thing, you know, my current sponsor, he really has a strong faith. And just like Andrew, it's like, you pray about it. Like if I call him and I haven't prayed, I don't get shit shamed, but I feel like I'm like, why? Like there was like some kind of mental barrier the first 9 months of us working together where he would always say it, I would always forget it, and I would always call. You know, like it was a real pattern that I'm like, how could I have done this again? Like when I start talking and realize I haven't done that, and I'm like, that question's coming. It's like, yeah, I was just about to do that second we got off the phone, but I wanted your opinion on it first.
You told me to call you first, bro. Come on, man.
Yeah, I swear that's what I thought. But you know, and then by you know how to correctly use prayer, you know, that was a big thing that allowed me to help facing my fears. You know, like praying only for his will and the power to carry that out. It doesn't say pray for Lucy's dog.
Yeah.
It doesn't say like it's basically how I can be of service and how do I do that? And that's a big thing rather than asking, you know, for something to be done so that I'm still the puppeteer of the universe. And that's a big thing for me, like a big mental shift. So he's been, and then also, you know, on my step 5 and that breaking down my stuff where I might have like gotten 2 steps from the real my part. You know, like I don't know about you guys, but haven't you ever done your step 5? And they're like, yeah, you're saying it's that, but it's really this. And I'm like, I'm like, how could it be that? How could it be that again? You know, like that's what it was like with me in acceptance. And he's like, well, he's like, let's just think of it like this. And he takes me through some kind of parable or something.
Hey,
and
that's how you know you have the right sponsor, right there.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because you know, like that's what I mean. Like he brings things to my awareness that I am just not capable of turning my head far enough to see. You know,
that's a great way to think about it.
You know, like it's like right over here is the answer, but I can only look this far. I'm like,
and he moves your chair so you can at least he moves your chair so you can position to it and look at it.
Yeah. So, you know, I really, you know, I want to thank all the sponsors out there who have taken the time to help us through this stuff.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
I think everybody's probably got some questions left. And I think at this time we should switch to lightning round because I've got about another 23 minutes. And is everybody good with a little lightning round loving?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I ain't scared.
Yeah.
I'm not
I'm
scared.
scared.
Okay, so Andrew,
Bring it on.
you're first up on the questions. I'll
This-
set the timer.
This is
and
a
you
great
ask Pam.
question too. This is a great question. All
Okay.
right. Why? Well, actually, if we're going to be asking
Who you
two
asking?
questions, I'm asking you,
Are you
Brandy.
asking me? Okay.
Yeah,
And
so
then
asking
I'm
Brandy.
going to Annette in the
Yep.
background. Okay.
Yep.
So, how do I keep my sponsorship relationships healthy?
Honesty for sure. That's a big one. And communication. And, definitely putting the work in that I feel like that my sponsor puts in with me also. I don't want her to put all this work into me and I'm just really only willing to do part of it. And take suggestions completely and understand that she's human. She's another addict. And, she's definitely not on a pedestal. And it's okay to grow and learn with your sponsor in a lot of areas. And, but yeah, communication and honesty. If I start lying to her, I'm going to be lying to myself I was a big liar back in the day. So as long as I can keep that open and I always do my homework. I always do my homework that she gives me. I even give myself homework, and I always turn it into her. So yeah, that's it.
You do all
Awesome.
the homework so you can yell at your sponsors when they don't do their homework. That's why you do your homework.
Right.
All right, Miss Annette, you ready? How do you keep your sponsorship relationships healthy today?
Honesty, and my 10th step is the 10th step's really important, and I really think about it, because it used to be that I would just, I didn't want to talk, I didn't want to write down the things that were bothering me, or it's not that, I would just think that things were too small. I had a fear throughout the day, but I'm not going to tell her, I'm not going to bother her with that, because whatever, I was afraid to, I was afraid that my partner doesn't find me attractive, like stupid shit like that. I don't need to write that down. But then there'd be maybe some arguments or something that happened through insecurity, and when we saw each other, I would tell her about it, and she asked me, why aren't you writing about that stuff in your 10th step? I'm like, oh, because I didn't think it was a big deal. At the time it wasn't, but it always turns into it. So honesty.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, it always starts somewhere, right? All right,
Yeah.
Mr. Milan, how do you keep your sponsorship relationships healthy today?
Well, I loved what everybody said there, and I feel that open communication, I do like honesty, but open communication about, getting feedback from them as well. Is there something that you're missing? And, what happened to me is I was a real reluctant caller to begin with when I came into the program. And my sponsor actually started calling me. And then it opened the door for me to call him back. And you know what? When that's the situation with sponsees now, instead of saying like, "Oh, lazy sponsee, you're not on it," or whatever, like whatever little dialogue goes off in my head, it's like, maybe they need a call today. Like maybe that's a sign. Maybe just me thinking about them not calling is the reason why I should call them. And it's really created a reciprocal communication situation that I love way more than a resentment one.
Beautiful answer. All right, Andrew, how do I keep my sponsorship relationships healthy today? Well, all y'all hit on it. The honesty piece, real important. But clear boundaries. I set clear boundaries in that relationship with the regular communication, and then I always bring it back to the literature, guys. Always, when there's like a big hairy problem in there, obviously prayer, but like bring it back to the literature, because it's like brass tacks, man. It's like it's on paper, right? Like this is why. And if I don't know what it is in terms of if a sponsee's coming to me, I just call my sponsor. I call my sponsor. He knows exactly he knows the answer, especially if it's something where, me being 3+ years, I'm still a newcomer here, but I got a couple of sponsees. Like all these little problems I'm having with my sponsees are baby issues compared to like what he's dealt with, right? My sponsor has. So I just always, I lean on him, right? In the times that I do, he reminds me that like I'm helping him more than he's helping me, and then he really thanks me when I call him, and I'm like, I don't want to bother him with this shit, and he thanks me. Right. And then he thanks me for keeping him alive that day. And it just spins everything for me. So, all right, Miss Brandy, you're going to ask a question to Miss Annette and then go around that way.
All right. Which kind of, my question kind of goes with the ending of what you just said. Okay. How does a sponsee help a sponsor?
Segue.
Okay. a sponsee in my experience, a sponsee helps a sponsor by keeping me in the book, keeping me in the literature, keeping me communicating with my sponsor, because a lot of times if I don't have a good answer, I'll tell my sponsee that I want to talk to my sponsor about this. And it just keeps me learning, and it ultimately keeps me sober, because I got to be honest, with the exception of the person I'm working with now, and I don't know, I haven't had someone who stayed sober, and that feels really shitty, but so I'm not going to say it feels really shitty. It is what it is. And now I've learned that that's not so abnormal. I don't know, maybe someone has found sobriety again that I've met in the past, but it keeps me sober. It keeps me sober. It keeps me in the book, and it keeps me actively, seeking help within the program.
And that must come first, Miss Annette. So you're doing the right thing. That's beautiful.
Could I get the question again, Brandy?
Yes. How does a sponsee help a sponsor?
Well, I think the biggest thing is us being self-centered and selfish and self-seeking. And so my moments of service are moments that for sure I'm not thinking about myself. It's one of the times where I can get out of myself. And quite frankly, most of the time, it makes me really present. Like I'm focusing on what we're talking about, and that takes me away from the past or the future and brings me into a greater level of presence, which to me is really the essence of our spiritual awakening and our living goal. And and quite honestly, it helps me say things that I've learned, and that very act helps me learn it better. Like if I know something well enough to speak it and to teach it, I know it twice as good as just thinking I know it.
Beautiful. I'll take that question, Ms. Brandy.
All right. How does a sponsee help a sponsor?
And beautiful question. It's taught me that like sponsorship isn't about being perfect. It's not about having all the right answers. It's about showing up. It's about showing up. And when you get a sponsee, it's not about changing your program when you get a sponsee, right? Continue that program doing what you're doing and just incorporate that into your program. It has taught me humility. Like it's shown me how to live. It's about living and not fixing, right? All the time. It's not about fixing something, we're not trying to be perfect here. And what it does is it holds me accountable to myself, right? It's forced me to continue to work on myself because I have another human watching how I live today.
Yeah.
It's a very, very important thing. If when I have 1 or 2 or 3 people watching how I live and counting on me to answer the phone at 3:00 in the morning, why am I I'm not going to be wasted at 3:00 in the morning so I can't answer the dude's phone. Like, come on, man, I'm going to be held accountable to my program, and I'm going to continue staying in an upward trajectory. I know people who have gotten sponsees that work harder at the steps than they do. And it ends, and there's a couple right now in my life, I won't name any names, and they're biting on their tails on their step work, and they might have gotten themselves a little in over their head. Again, a learning experience, but that's my answer.
Love it. All right. How does a sponsee help a sponsor? So I didn't think that was a thing until my sponsor said to me that you help me more than you know. And like from my own experience, that like it's kind of like when you're at a job and you have to train somebody, and it kind of like revamps everything and like you kind of get that passion back in what you do again. I felt a lot of that with being a sponsor. Like I feel my passion again through my sponsee. I have a sponsee right now who's my favorite. Don't tell anybody I said that.
Love her.
Deny it. And I see that like it just refreshes me, and how I, like every step we go through is amazing. And so it's she helps me stay in my recovery, in the literature, and to keep doing the next right thing, because easily you can go about your day and forget that it doesn't matter how much time you have, you can still go the other way. And so it definitely keeps me grounded in a good way, not like I'm grounded in trouble. So
Love that.
Y'all have made each other better women. I could tell. Y'all have made each other just better people in general. And I don't mean that y'all were bad people to begin with. Y'all were already amazing,
but it's different.
Like, elevated each one of y'all, especially
I think so too.
Especially
I think so. Yeah.
Do you have a question for me, Annette?
I do. What advice would you give someone who is hesitant or afraid to ask for a sponsor?
Ooh, I would recommend that they just do it. You know, I think for sure try to find one that inspires you. You know, like I really wouldn't I wouldn't just pick anybody myself, and that's just me. But you know, I do think it's worth the effort. You know, especially like stagnancy in early recovery like a demise. You know, like
Mm,
we can't be going backwards. Right at that initial point where we're still gifted with desperation. You know, they say that that gift of desperation lasts like 1 to 5 weeks. Don't dick
mm,
around. Use that to
mm.
get your first bit of hope and faith because that's what will keep you driving in the program. So don't
Yeah.
hesitate, man. Those who hesitate are lost.
Love it. I'll
Yeah.
take that question, Miss Annette.
Okay, what advice would you give someone who is hesitant or afraid to ask for a sponsor?
Pick someone who has what you want. You know, that talks the way that you want to talk and has things in their life and conducts themselves in a way that you want to as well. And be honest from day one. Be honest from day one. Keep showing up. You know, and if it's not working with that sponsor, or you get one originally, it's not working, you can shift and go get another one. Ask that one how to get another one, and they'll help you through that process. You might think it's not going to work out, but everything works out if you ask for help around here. This
Mm,
program is built on the humility piece, man. Asking for help,
yeah.
and so that's something that my sponsor has taught me. Like when I come to him and I think I'm a worthless individual because I'm coming to him because I haven't done something right, he reminds me that I've practicing that spiritual principle of humility. I'm asking him for help, and I'm doing the right thing, and I'm being a better person in real time when I'm doing that. So um just just do it. Just do it. Whatever is on your heart, think about it, pray about it, whatever that process is for you, and then just do it. And then if it doesn't work out, switch it up. That's my answer.
All
Great
right.
question.
All right.
Now, Annette,
Ask Brandy. Yep.
Mhm. What advice would you give someone who's hesitant or maybe afraid to ask for a sponsor?
Get uncomfortable because we lived in a comfort zone for way too long. And if you are hesitant or are not too sure, that's that like uncomfortable of wanting to do something different, do it anyways. What's the worst that's going to happen? Maybe they'll say they can't do it, and help you find another one, or maybe, they'll say, call me for 30 days. And so get out of your own way. And that's something I definitely still find myself getting in my own way. And to go off of that a little bit, there's people that I know that say that they are not sponsorable. I don't know if we decided that was a word or not. And maybe you're just not looking for the right sponsor. Maybe you're just looking for the wrong thing, and your expectations are not what they should be. And not saying lower them, but let's be realistic about it. But definitely get uncomfortable. I didn't get that saying at first until my sponsor made me go to a meeting by myself. And it was a big one. And I was like, all right, I'm going to get uncomfortable. And so, yeah.
I love that.
I love that. That's
And
funny.
now, Annette, can you ask yourself?
Yeah, what advice I would give someone who's hesitant or afraid to ask for a sponsor? And I really thought about this question because there are a couple people in my program, and I'm in a small town. It's a small group. We're pretty close, especially during this time of year, who just don't work with sponsors. And you can hear it in their shares, that everything's so negative, and this happened to me and that happened to me, and I don't understand. And I had a situation where I just asked this person, like, if they have a sponsor, and they're like, no, I mean, I had one, years ago, it didn't really go very well. And my feeling is that what I've seen to be true in this program is like, we can't do this alone. We never could do this alone. Just you and your higher power is a little tricky, because where does the guidance of your higher power start, and your own justification of why you're doing certain things stop? You really, my advice is just like, give yourself a break. Give yourself a break, find some relief, and a sponsor will help you do that.
Love
Yeah,
that.
that's a great answer.
Okie dokie, Andrew.
Yes.
How do you balance taking direction with developing your own spiritual understanding and responsibility?
Oh, that's a tough question for a minute.
I know.
But
That's what I do.
when I find myself getting out there a little bit, I have people around me that kind of call me on my shit, man. If I'm getting a little too high and mighty, I'll have people kind of back me down, and my sponsor is one of those people. But he's not around all the time, so it's about my support structure that doesn't involve him, that kind of keeps me in line when he's not around. So I really just surround myself. I don't surround myself with people doing drugs and in that lane anymore. I'm doing the anti of that. So I know I'm not going to fall over on it and start that process anymore. I'm nowhere around it. So it's about surrounding myself with people that that are in the same lane as I am. So I know I'm always surrounded with people that are going to call me on my shit, man. It's not about co-signing my bullshit and riding my wave anymore, man. It's about keeping me alive by any means necessary.
Yeah.
It's the most important thing. Staying clean must come first. So
Love that.
boom.
Okie dokie. Brandy, how do you balance taking direction with developing your own spiritual understanding and responsibility?
I feel like I understand that though my sponsor is there for me and guides me, I am my own person and I have my own life goals and stuff like that. Like ultimately we all a lot of the same, but this is a journey that she's walking. This is my journey that she's helping me through. And so I, in turn help her, but just being able to know what works for me and know that I should at least try everything that is suggested to know what works for me and where my path is going to go and be able to see like, well, that worked for you and is great advice. But I think that, then I just try something a little different and I find that maybe something a little different works. But it's just knowing that that we're all addicts or alcoholics and we're in this together, but we are our own people at the same time. And, there's a balance in everything and balance is very important too. So that's my answer.
Love that. And Miss Annette, how do you balance taking direction with developing your own spiritual understanding and responsibility?
Nowadays, I do what I learned in a job a long time ago, which is like when I'm really when I'm struggling, I'm having a big issue, something's really got something's got me emotionally imbalanced. I really do, first of all, meditate and then say a little prayer about it. And then I might call my sponsor and say, I think this is how I should maybe handle this. And then get her input on it. And then I have another really dear friend we both have amazing sponsors and we're both like running back. Let me ask my sponsor about this. Let me ask this sponsor. So utilizing another person who I really respect in the program, who we're so open with each other. And it's like, I get her look at it. I get her sponsor's perspective. And then I talk to my sponsor and get that. So it's
a beautiful point. Beautiful point.
I love that.
Beautiful.
Okay, how do I balance taking direction with developing my own spiritual understanding and responsibility? So, for myself, I've never thought my recovery was my sponsor's responsibility one bit. In fact, it was almost like I was afraid to surrender what I did to a sponsor to begin with. Like I was afraid. Like I was kind of distrustful in whatever it was coming into recovery, where I had kind of built up my own isolation and addiction, that I wasn't really giving it away. And so now what I do is, I really educate myself more than what my sponsor and I talk about. I spend time on my own recovery. I spend time with my sponsees learning. I spend time places like here where, man, this has been a source of education for me this last 7 months in an unbelievable fashion for my recovery. And so I just make sure that I'm taking what he says and then, then I'm going back and I'm talking to him about it. I'll leave that there.
That's
so
beautiful.
I think basically this is it. Andrew, you got a final comment?
Look, this is the bloodline of the fellowship sponsorship. And then I was gonna hit on this. What is it? Peace gives me the stillness to hear what's going on, and awareness, which these these are what my sponsor gives me is awareness, helps me to name it, put my finger on it. So
Nice.
that's
And
it.
Miss Brandy?
Yeah, sponsorship has been a great subject. I think that there's so much that comes to it on, learning how to set boundaries, how to follow suggestions, and how to do the next right thing, and how to be there for someone else, and also be there for yourself. So I think this is an amazing one. I feel like I've felt every angle of the word sponsorship before, and so it's great to talk about it. I've learned a lot from my sponsor and about from being a sponsor. So,
I love
and
that.
from my sponsees for sure.
And Annette, anything to say here at the end?
Just thanks for letting me be on this podcast again with
Yes.
you guys. I really love you guys, and
Love you too.
I just I can't even imagine navigating through this without good sponsorship.
Right.
And
Right.
and I'm just so grateful that it's set up, because there's not a lot in the book about sponsorship. There's like a little tiny
Yeah.
bit. And the fact that this whole thing has been developed to help us get a little deeper and to get a little more, from our recovery and learn how to give our recovery to someone else's.
Yeah.
Oof, priceless. Yeah.
I
Beautiful.
love
I
Right,
remember
right.
what I wanted to say. I got one more thing to say.
Whoa,
Look,
no. I didn't even get my turn yet. No.
Okay. All right.
Okay. This is a shout out to John, greatest sponsor alive in my heart, and to all my sponsees for giving me the opportunity to grow. Now go, Andrew, quick.
All right, so bring your ass and we'll build a person around it. And look, it is
I
called
like
instant
that.
gratification because it's gone in an instant, guys. That's what Sean always tells me.
And tune in next episode for more recovery fun. Bye-bye,
guys,
everybody.
man.
We love you. Please help us help others. If you've liked what you've seen here today, please subscribe and share this podcast and help us get to 100 followers. We're looking for interaction with our audience. So please email recoveryfreedomrising@gmail.com or contact Milan South Okanagan Starsick on Facebook with questions, topic suggestions, or just comments. We'd love to hear from you.